Hi, my name is Matt Andrews. I teach a course called Getting Things Done Management in the Development Context at Harvard University. This semester I thought I would have some brief thoughts about each class that I teach, put them online and see what people think, if it's useful for them, if they have any comments. Today we had our second class, and in the second class I'm trying to introduce some standard classical management theory to my students. Um, and one of the reasons why is that over the summer I got a bunch of comments from the students about what they had been doing over the summer and their comments and their thoughts about organizations that they worked with in governments that they worked in and things that they saw and were curious about. In a number of cases, people spoke about bureaucracy and said there was too much bureaucracy, there was too much process, there was too much this, it was inefficient, it didn't work. I thought, gee, it's very interesting to notice that, the way in which we speak about bureaucracy now, the way in which we speak about Max Weber, the way in which we would speak about administrative structure is usually pejorative and negative. We don't have good things to say. But when these things came up, they came up as solutions to problems with getting things done. You had people like Frederick Taylor, you had Weber, you had Fayol, you had all of these folks who were observing organizations that either were working well and they were explaining why they were working well, or that weren't working well and they were saying, well, how do you make them work better? So today we looked at some of these things, and the students read some of the work of these folks, and they came out and they said, these guys advocated centralizing organizations, they advocated having a hierarchy, they advocated having strong rules and processes that allowed people to act in a very consistent manner, that also allowed for fairness across an organization. That these guys advocated tenure, they advocated finding the right people through merit, using merit-based tests and so forth, training them to do specific tasks, and then making sure that you kept them. They advocated having extrinsic rewards, using monetary rewards in a manner that motivated people to do their work. They advocated having clear identification of the tasks. In the spirit of Frederick Taylor, they advocated identifying the one best way of doing things, and once you'd identified that one best way, breaking it down into its tasks, working out exactly how to do it, training people to do it, and executing. This is an interesting model, and it's an effective model in certain circumstances, and certainly it was a very, very dominant model in the last 100 years. I showed the students how many management devices that you can find being hawked on consulting companies' pages really emerged from here. There's many things, even the use of org charts in the way that we do today, the way in which we break tasks down, the way in which we have IT systems that organize tasks and allocate responsibilities based on tasks. Even a lot of the mechanisms we have to cascade goals throughout an organization, the idea of merit-based hiring systems, the idea of having testing as an entryway into civil service regimes, these things all came from this idea. The other thing that came there was the idea of the one best way solution, the idea that you can scientifically work out how to do things, and then you can scientifically work out exactly the step-by-step approach you need to take, and then you just need to do it. In development, I showed them a number of ways in which this has been very influential about the way people have spoken about what governments should look like, and also the way in which we have understood successful governments. There's a significant amount of work that shows that bureaucracies that look more Weberian seem to have higher levels of growth. They also seem to be able to tackle poverty better. So it raises an interesting question as to kind of where do these fit now, because we don't like to speak about bureaucracy. We don't like to speak about top-down systems. We don't like to speak about control from the top and these kinds of mechanisms. We certainly don't like to speak about tenure in teaching systems or even in medical systems. We like to speak about a more an adaptive mechanism for managing, and that certainly is even my approach. But these mechanisms and these approaches coming from classical theory need to be understood, and they need to be taken seriously as the underpinnings of many either of the puzzles that we have today or the answers that we could find. So we're on a journey to think about how these things apply. One of the tasks that the students have this week is to think about whether how they would advise a government looking to restructure its health sector to use classical theories. What kinds of tools come from classical theory that they think could be useful? On Wednesday, we're going to talk about some of the dangers of bureaucracy and the dangers of taking the classical theory too far. So I'm going to be posting a video like this probably once a week for the next 10 weeks or so. If you want to follow along, then please be welcome to do so. Have a good evening. Bye.